Let's see what's happening in the world today on Tuesday, the 18th, other than the fact that it is hot weather continuing around the world and it definitely is impacting a lot of folks. And we know that definitely things are going on in the war in Ukraine. And hopefully, Sasha will be coming in. And we know he's got his show at Tuesday and talking about some of the things that are happening in that space as well. So, yes, it is saying that heat wave is bringing health warnings as extreme weather grips the globe. So, there is a red weather alert in places in 20 of 27 of Italian's main cities. So that's going on over there. And apparently it's gripping Europe, US, and Asia. Not sure what the weather is looking like over there in Africa and the Australian, New Zealand area, but we'll find out. Maybe Shaquille will pop in and tell us. But definitely there are heat waves in three of the continents, and that is something that is impacting a lot of folks. A lot of folks are also wondering what the impact going to be in far as the food and situation and all that, particularly after Russia has backed out of the Ukraine grain deal. The Kremlin is blaming Ukraine for deadly explosions, and definitely all eyes are on China after Russia leaves the Black Sea grain deal. And I guess we're going to see if things are going to go in that direction in terms of where the grain might be coming from. And there is speculation about higher food prices and more hunger because of that grain deal. And we'll see how folks react to that as well. And of course, there is divisions over the Ukraine war, which has caused a rift at the EU Latin America summit. And it looks like Brussels is looking to regain influence in Latin America as the leader summit begins. So definitely it looks like Brussels is, and maybe some of the other parts of Europe are looking at trying to get some influence in that part of the world as well. And UK travelers are warned as Italy and Spain fight to control wildfires. So that is something else that is going on. And speaking of things that are going on, I think that I heard about a American that was detained after they had crossed a border that they weren't supposed to cross, and all along those lines. So yeah, it looks like North Korea detained a U.S. soldier who crossed the military demarcation line, according to what officials say. And definitely that soldier is believed to be in custody after his unauthorized border crossing. So definitely, I guess he was maybe trying to do some exploring or something along those lines, but he crossed a line that he wasn't supposed to, and now he is in custody. And I'm sure there's some world negotiations to get him back out of custody and all in that space. So that is something that I was seeing in the news. And among the news, there are many other things that are going on as well. Looks like a Australian and his dog were rescued after being 3 months adrift in the Pacific. So it looks like they were totally adrift in that area, and it'll be interesting to see if Shaquille comes on and has any thoughts about that gentleman and whether that was a subject of news coverage or not. I also heard a nickname for folks from Australia and New Zealand. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was anthropode or something like that. But they were talking about how very shortly, I believe in the month of August, that area will be the home to the Women's World Cups. And I definitely think both countries say that they are trying to be, because they're doing it jointly, to be the first country since I think it was the U.S. Won the World Cup on their home turf. So we'll see if they have any luck. There are definitely several strong teams. I know that they both have strong teams, and apparently they are trying to be representative of their cultures in terms of the original people or the First Nation folks in that space. So that was an article that I was reading about what they are doing in that space. I think that some of the signage is even being done in the language of the folks from those two nations and everything, because there are different nations for those from Australia. There were First Nation and those from New Zealand. So if Shaquille comes in, he might have some ideas of what they're doing and how they're doing it, and all in that space. I think they were even doing, I know, some signage, and even some of the symbols might be involved as well that are celebrating that culture. So that is something that they are doing, I guess, to highlight some of their past and some of their history. But we'll see what folks have to say about that, and if they come on, if they have any thoughts around that as well. And Israeli protesters are blocking the highways in a day of disruption against Netanyahu's judicial overhaul. So he's A lot of governments will have judicial overhauls, and then sometimes the people like it, sometimes the people don't like it. But in this case, there are definitely protests going on in Israel and all in that kind of way. And Spain's early election could put the far right in power for the first time since Franco. So definitely looks like a lot of rights, including LGBTQ rights, are at the forefront of the Spain's elections. So we're going to see what happens in that space, but it does look like they are heading toward a victory. And I'm hoping that some of our folks will come in and share some of their thoughts on that. And maybe we'll even get some leaders in that can talk about what that means on a global level and what that means just in terms of Spain politics. I do know we have a gentleman, I believe it's a lawyer, who comes in from that area. So maybe Nick can reach out to him and we can see if he is available or some of the other people are available as well to talk about this from a global perspective. Because, like I said, some of these things I am learning just as you, our listeners, are learning as well. And Turkey's Erdogan is arriving in Saudi Arabia to kick off the Gulf tour. So that is something else that we are seeing. So Saudi Arabia has signed a drone deal with Turkey's Baykar. And that is something that I'm sure a lot of folks will be paying attention to as well. And Russia has amassed 100,000 troops as it seeks a breakthrough in the Kharkov region and all in that space. So Russian counterattacks near Kopenhagen, and definitely I'll be interested to find out where some of these regions are and their impact and their significance in this particular war. And hopefully Sasha can come in and tell me some of these things as well. And then there is South Korea deaths from floods. Downpours have grown to 40s, and drought survivors are being sought in that area. So that is some of the things that I am seeing as well. And a China foreign minister is missing. So some people are wondering whether it is Z troubles or health issue troubles. But the China foreign minister's mystery absence is fueling black box concerns, and apparently Xi Jinping's foreign minister has vanished from public view. His prolonged absence is driving intense speculation. So folks are wondering where Quinn Gang is. That is the gentleman's name, and he has not been seen in the public for about 3 weeks, so almost a month, and all in that space. And if you wondered about the world's newest, largest office building, well, it's bigger than the Pentagon. And apparently, I got to find out where that is. I'm guessing probably somewhere in the Middle East, but I could be 100% wrong. But I'll be looking out that and seeing what is going on in that space as well. And it looks like Victoria is canceling its 2026 Commonwealth Games over the cost. So definitely that is something that is going on as well. So Victoria, the host Victoria, has pulled out over the cost, and that was scheduled for 2026. So that is something that a lot of folks might be considering in a number of places, because these things to do international sports competitions are not cheap in the least bit. So it does look like they have pulled out, and some folks are saying that who knows, that could be the death knell. So I'm thinking that that could be the end of those particular games, is what they are speculating, and all in that space. And the Biden administration is warning Beijing against brazen coercion in response to Taiwan's vice president visit. So the Taiwan presidential candidate is planning U.S. stop, and of course that is drawing ire and a lot of flack from the Chinese government and all in that space. So Taiwan's vice president is expected to transit the U.S. as the Biden administration works to recognize diplomacy with China. So that is something that we are seeing in the news. And the Pentagon is saying the U.S. is sending a warship to protect ships from Iranian seizures. So definitely, it looks like McCarthy is holding a news briefing, and we'll find out what goes on in that news briefing, because it looks like that is going on at this particular moment. And he is holding that after the Democrats promised to oppose a abortion bill. So, and DeSantis is speaking at a pro-Israeli meeting and calling on Biden to butt out of that country's politics. So that is something that we are seeing. And if you're wondering about what's going on in India, Indian opposition parties are forming an alliance called India for the 2024 elections, and the opposition alliance is taking on the BJP bloc, and definitely it is looking like they are out there, and definitely there is some folks, including Rakoff Chada, that are saying that the BJP is having sleepless nights. So there is political division, even in that large part of the world has got billions of people and all in that space. So definitely that is something that I am seeing in the news, as tens of thousands of people are also fleeing as Typhoon Talem lashes at both China and Vietnam. So that is something else that is going on in the world and around the world and all in that space. I do see that I've got Lee Newton Rhodes. I'll see if anybody else joins us as well. So I'm going to bring him on and see what he's got on his mind and in the things that are going on in that world. I did not get to any of the national news. I was going to get to that very shortly when I look down. So you were in the space to be, and that is always good to have a teammate in the
Good morning, Mark.
and all along those lines. So how are you doing on this
I'm
particular
okay. You mentioned you didn't get some international news, or I think this is
national news?
international news. Is it? I'm sorry.
I said I was going to get to the national news, but yeah, go ahead.
The national news. I just want to mention an article in the New York Post this morning.
Okay.
It's a disgusting article about 6 men gang raped a lady in Spain, I believe it was.
Oh, wow.
And this is just a public service announcement. If you're going out drinking with your friends, don't leave them. And if you're going to leave your friends, don't go back with the guy to his hotel room. This lady does not deserve to have been gang raped. But what the hell was she thinking?
I mean, what that brings back, that was the case around, and I don't like to speak ill of those that have passed on and were legends of basketball and everything. But as I recall, wasn't that part of the conversation that happened years ago with Kobe, where somebody had literally gone back to the room, or it was one of the other, I think it was Kobe, but it was definitely one of the NBA players, and they had gone back into the room very late at night and everything. And then there were accusations, and I think there might have been a settlement of one sort or another. But yeah, I oftentimes wonder about the responsibility of folks when they decide to go into these rooms at the late night hours, particularly when they know that they've been drinking, other folks have been drinking, and I am not supporting, I know you're not either, the whole notion of date rape drugs and a number of other things, but even some of the things that were going on with a legend in entertainment, that being Cosby and everything, was definitely involving the accusations of drugs being used by the folks to subdue and to take advantage of the women and all in that space. And a lot of times they are oftentimes at a moment of exposure in the sense of being with folks that are of fame and fortune and all of that. And a lot of times they are making unwise decisions and going to places probably at hours that they don't need to be going and all along those lines. But that's just some of my immediate thoughts as I recall some of those cases from years ago.
Yeah, maybe people shouldn't be public drinking if you're not with your family or with very, very close friends who will not leave you. But people make poor decisions once their mind gets clouded.
Yeah, people make poor
or they
decisions.
think, you know what, it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, and not only that, but speaking of poor decisions, I mean, I mentioned two of them, and I was going to mention another one now, apparently at a demarcation zone, and I'm thinking it could have been just a soldier that was, bored or trying to just maybe go on an exploration or whatever, but apparently he crossed the border that he wasn't supposed to cross, and he got detained, and that was why one of our U.S. soldiers is being held right now by North Korea, because apparently he was held while he was doing that. And on a lighter note, because
I think there's got to be more to that story, because I can't believe it's so easy, even accidentally, to walk into North Korea or to walk out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you wouldn't think this other story I'm getting to mention, which was in the New York Post, would be so easy as well. But apparently, and I know that people can do whatever they want to and everything, but apparently there are a lot of tourists that are being caught defacing ancient symbols and everything. And there was a 17-year-old Swiss girl that became the second tourist to deface Rome's Colosseum in a month. So she actually, I guess, got caught and everything because she was filmed. I don't know that they arrested her, but she was filmed carving her initials, and that may seem like a simple thing, but she was carving it into the Rome's Colosseum and everything. I mean, I'm thinking about like those folks that write in, Joe was here or whoever was here and everything. But in the sense of what is going on, it is still the defacing of a public monument, and I guess more people are being brazen about it, and particularly some of our young folks are being brazen about it because apparently they were caught.
Maybe
And
this stuff, I don't know if it's not criminalized, but maybe it should be. I mean, you can go over to Mona Lisa or the Lincoln Memorial and start carving in your initials. It's not benign. These things cannot be replaced.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They're historical documents that can be
Right.
replaced, and it's not a benign action in the least bit. And the interesting thing about it is that you wonder how many times it had been done in the decades and centuries before. But part of the reason that this person was caught was because they were filmed doing it. So a Swiss tourist who was there, I guess not with that particular Swiss girl, was actually filming what was going on. And I don't think that they were part of the same crowd. So you have to
I
wonder.
mean, how dumb could you be? Can you imagine a bank robber live streaming? Like, what are you thinking?
Well, bank robbers do some insane things, because I think I told you once before, and I definitely have told on some of my other shows and everything. But there was, here in Durham where I live, there was, and this was decades ago, there was a bank that doesn't exist as a bank right now. As a matter of fact, right now it is more of a hotel, not even a hotel. It's kind of like, it's a hotel slash like a boutique kind of space and everything, because they got a restaurant, and I won't say it's a boutique space, but it's definitely not a bank anymore in that sense and everything. But at that time, it was a bank and all along those lines. And the gentleman went and robbed the bank. And after he robbed the bank, he had the masterful plan that he was going to go catch the bus. But, I guess he didn't know the bus schedule. So he actually got caught because he did not know the bus schedule. So he was caught with the loot at the bus terminal, which is no longer our current bus terminal. That was moved further down because he apparently didn't do great planning. So they caught him because he was sitting there literally waiting for the bus and everything. And I think there was another incident here in North Carolina where, hate to speak ill of the dead, but he tried to go into a convenience store. And while in the convenience store, he got trapped in the convenience store. And I want to say that he eventually died in there from suffocation or whatever, because he didn't really plan what he was doing. So he crawled into a cubbyhole, managed to get halfway to his destination and got stuck. So, like I said, they found him in there, I think, like a day or two or a week later. They're starting to smell up the joint. So they found him.
Are you saying Santa should maybe downsize before he goes into someone's chimney?
Yeah, if he's too big, he might want to downsize. Exactly. Might want to downsize for sure and everything, definitely, because you get stuck in that chimney if you might be having too much weight and everything. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe he's got to downsize. Just out of curiosity, what are you thinking about all these different cases? Because apparently a special counsel is informing Trump that he is the target in probe of an efforts to overturn the 2020 election, and Donald Trump is saying that he's a target in that space and all in that space. So he admitting that he was being investigated and everything. And I hear that your area may be bringing some other charges as well, meaning Atlanta and all in that space. But whether he was doing it or not, or whether Biden's son was doing it or not, how much do you think the public is getting tired of hearing about these constant accusations and constant potential trials? And like I said, I think that that's on both the Democrats and the Republicans. But I
think a lot of people are seeing that, justice is not blind. You're going to tell me that someone can bring cocaine into a White House undetected, and they just have no idea who did it?
Yeah, well,
that in itself, they must know who did it, and that's why they're saying it. Visitors cannot go in there. There must be sniffing guard dogs there. Everyone's screened. No one's going to, in their right mind, bring something in there. The only one who possibly could is someone who wasn't screened, and that really narrows down the field. And someone can run an anthrax undetected.
But at all public places, doing as much detection as they should.
The White House? The White House has to be the number one protected place in the United States, if not the world.
It should be, but I don't know that it necessarily is, because it's been a minute since I've been up to those museums that are up there. And a lot of
Mark, if there are not cameras in every inch of the White House, then there should be. And I think Bill Clinton removed some for various reasons, which we can look back and determine why. But there's no reason there can't be cameras on every inch, putting aside the restrooms.
Yeah, I agree, but like I said, I don't know that that is necessarily the case and everything, but definitely that will be interesting. Speaking of interesting, it also looks like getting back to national news that and the different people have different rules and different thoughts about it. Some people want to go for a certain amount of weeks. Some people want to go as soon as there is a heartbeat, and that apparently is what Iowa was looking at. But the Iowa judge has blocked that state's fetal heartbeat abortion ban days after Governor Kim Reynolds signed that measure into law. So apparently that was what was going to be going on, and it's being blocked because I guess the fetal heartbeat is roughly at the 6-week mark and all in that space. So I guess the judge is going to re-examine that and see if it is falling within the realm of both state and I guess federal law, and who knows, maybe it'll go to the Supreme Court, and at some point maybe the Supreme Court will make a decision as to when life begins, since that is part of the argument as to when it begins, and then whether you have the right to make those decisions based on health.
Is there any scientific reason why we can't say life begins at conception once you have a fertilized egg? Well, it is a potential human, at least a potential human life right there.
That's a potential human life, but as I understand it, and I am not a biologist, don't claim to be a biologist, don't claim to be a doctor, but there are billions and billions of people that are having sexual encounters on a regular basis and everything. And they say that the odds are crazily for the amount of births that we have, because there are over 8 billion people in the world and everything. So the amount of birth we have, it is a miracle every time a birth is done because of the percentage of what goes on with those millions of eggs and that one womb. And there are a lot of women who start and men who struggle not being able to get pregnant. Say what?
A lot of women struggle not being able to get pregnant, who want to have a child who can't. They're infertile for whatever reason. They struggle with that. I get all that. But as most adults, if not all, in the free world for sure in the United States, know that there's a potential of pregnancy if you have sexual intercourse. That is a potential there, besides diseases and whatever else. It's not a benign act, emotionally or physically.
No, I mean, and there's the folks that have made that argument, because some people say that you are having a emotional connection, whether you want that connection or not.
100%.
Sexual encounter.
It's not like shaking hands.
Right. A lot of people say that is a emotional connection that in some people's beliefs that are very religious, and some that aren't all that religious believe that they hold on to that connection for their entire lives, whether they stay with that person or don't stay with that person and everything. So that is a whole metaphysical discussion that can go on, because some people believe that, other people don't believe it as strongly and everything. But yeah, that is what goes on in that space. But a lot of people enjoy the act itself and therefore are more interested in the act than the consequences, which is what you are talking about, is the consequences. So definitely that is part of what happens in that space. And a lot of people will, feel that they are doing whatever they need to do to stop the pregnancy from happening. And
that's not true, Mark. They're not doing everything they can do. No, abstinence is 100%.
Well, I'm saying abstinence is 100%, but I'm saying those that are, saying that they are doing the right contraception, doing whatever they are doing, or even sometimes
someone who does not want to get pregnant or get someone pregnant, there is something you can do to guarantee that pregnancy will not take place. There is something that very easy, simple. It's free. We all have it at home. It's called willpower.
Well, no, the willpower.
Here's a question. You're smiling.
Yeah, because
Good morning, Toby. It's always a pleasure seeing your face.
I love seeing you too, because this is why I enjoy it, because in this issue, this is one of those that we're on polar opposite, and it's so good to have a conversation about it. So
how are we polar opposites on this one?
So we're polar opposites in the fact that I feel that it's a woman's right to decide what goes on in that, because I believe.
No, I agree with you 100%. No woman should be forced to become pregnant. 100%.
I believe even while she's pregnant, she has that decision on her shoulders, and she doesn't make that decision flippantly. So basically, her decision.
It's irrelevant. That's very subjective. Flippantly,
No,
it's very
no,
subjective.
It's not really, because you're so it all boils down to, do we believe that women are smart enough to make the decision about their bodies and about their family life moving forward?
Okay, for your sake of argument, let's pretend I'm a female. I identify as a female. Let's say I'm pregnant. Okay. At what point or no point are you going to restrict my ability and my right to abort that baby? Not give it up for adoption, not C-section, but to kill that baby inside me, from conception to birth. Any point in between, or no? It's all totally up to me.
Yes, and we have to speak. We can't speak hyperbolically, and that's where the emotion.
It's a hypothetical question. Yeah, but it does happen.
No, I mean, we have to. It doesn't happen at the. It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Is there any point in time where you would say no? You lost your right to have the abortion because you passed X number of weeks or whatever.
That's between.
So you're up to as the baby's coming out.
That doesn't happen.
It doesn't matter if it does or doesn't. You're okay with it if it does.
No, Lee, it does. Now, this is where the problem comes into play. We cannot make up things to make our argument better.
But we can define what is acceptable and what's not. At what point is it, according to Chovy, is it not acceptable?
Lee, we cannot make up things to make our argument sound better, because when we make up things, we're not arguing or having a genuine discussion. So,
Toby, when I'm driving on the highway, a cop pulls me over for speeding. I can say I'm not speeding. There is a subjective way it's not objective way.
But Lee,
whether you were speeding or not.
What I'm stating is, when you're saying, well, if the woman is in the middle of birth and says, I don't want to have that baby, can we kill it? That's not a legitimate argument.
Why not?
That doesn't happen.
I disagree with you. Ask Governor Northam, who said on a botched abortion, you can still kill the baby. Ralph Northam said that. Yes, he said after a botched abortion, you can put the baby aside, and the mother and the doctor can decide what should you do with the baby. Let it live, take care of it, or let it die.
No, wait. After a botched abortion
where you have a live baby on the table.
No, you cannot do that. That is called murder, and that doesn't happen.
That's not Virginia law. Ask Governor Ralph Northam famously said.
Hold on. Here's a question then. So Governor Northam
I agree with you that it's a murder. I agree with you.
No, but Lee, answer this question. Governor Northam is Republican, Democrat?
I believe a Democrat.
Are you sure?
Not 100%, but I believe. I don't believe any Republican governor would say that. But maybe I'm wrong.
A Republican governor would say something hyperbolic to make people feel bad and go against abortions.
I didn't say that. This particular statement, I don't believe a Republican. But to me, it's not a Republican issue. To me, it's a.
Hold on a second.
What does Mark have to say?
No, hold on a second. I just had to back up on something you just said, Lee, because wasn't it a Republican candidate that did kind of what you are saying that Republicans won't do with the whole Willie Horton case and everything? Because as I recall, that whole thing was very much a Republican kind of doing that scare tactic kind of thing, because it was like, if Dukakis wins, I think it was Dukakis, then what will happen we'll get a bunch of Willie Hortons out there, and it'll just be a crazy situation and all in that space. That was kind of the argument that was made, and I think that was made by a Republican candidate. Am I not right, Jacoby, or am I missing my facts?
No, you're right.
Jacoby is a Democrat.
Yep.
Ralph Northam.
I'm trying to find out where this saying that there was a baby on the table and you could kill the baby.
I'll put it in the chat right now. I'll put a link in the chat that says it was taken out of context. I don't know that it was, but.
Well, I mean, it might have been taken out of context and everything.
So here we go. Northam was referring to third trimester abortions that are done in cases where there may be severe deformities. There may be a fetus that is non-viable.
Okay, go on.
Do you understand what the non-viable?
Yeah, I understand that.
So
I understand that.
the baby is non-viable.
No, he didn't say that. In all honesty, he didn't say there was. He said there may be. Maybe there, maybe not.
Northam was referring to, and then he said, if
Yes.
the mother is in labor, I can
Right.
tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated. And if that mother, if that's what the mother and the family desired, then the discussion would ensue between the physician and her mother. Having a
To do what?
Hold on. This is where this gets interesting. Now, having an individual who actually works in this area that Northam is talking about, where babies do go, the NICU and the PICU, where babies are born, where they are non-viable. Yes, there is a heartbeat, but you know what happens in the next few minutes? They could be born without a brainstem. You know what happens? The baby dies.
So what you're trying to say
I
is
get that.
somebody in your family, they have to make some very difficult decisions.
That is not murder, and that is not actually what's going on.
I
You're talking
I hear
about.
what you're saying, and you're making a fair point, but I don't believe his statement or it's restricted to those only.
Now, again, this is
100%.
where we're making stuff up. Again, the gentleman is talking about non-viable children or non-viable babies that are born. That is what Northam is talking about. But you're taking it as, oh, there's this baby that's healthy, living on the table, that's all viable. We're going to just murder it on the table. That's not what Northam is talking about. Nobody was talking about.
You're saying he's only talking about non-viable. That's it.
Hold on a second. Jacoby, just to give some context and everything, because you are fortunate enough to have somebody in your family, and if you want to explain who that is, that works in that field on average, because your person in your family works there at a major university. How many neonatal and very small babies are there on an average? Because I'm thinking that there are probably several that they have to deal with on a regular basis.
Neonatal, there are birth and babies and all that stuff. And see, we should actually have a female on talking about this, somebody in that field and so on, because we're men talking about this. But birth in that situation is not as simple. Like no childbirth is 100% safe for a woman. None. There is any.
That's unfortunately true.
Huh?
It's unfortunately true, even today.
Yeah, and therefore, when we talk about that the government itself should tell women that, hey, you have to have this baby regardless. Because there are states now that are saying, hey, you have to have this baby, even in cases of rape and incest and all this other stuff. So you're saying that now a woman who has the chance of not living in this childbirth, even if it is a young teenage child, they have to have this baby. So now we're forcing children to be in situation.
Okay, I'm going to grant you this on what Northam said, so we can get back to our argument about what point in time in a pregnancy does a woman have or give up the right to an abortion.
So again, for me, that decision is between that woman and her physician.
Your labor minus 1 minute, you're good. Labor minus 1 minute, you're good.
What?
Labor minus 1 minute, you're good for an abortion. If the mother and the doctor.
Again, Lee, this is where that does not happen.
Labor minus a month, are you okay?
Lee.
Labor minus 2 months? Is there a point that you'll go on record?
Again, that decision is between the woman and.
So you will not go on the record at any point in time between 0 and 40 weeks.
Goes between a woman.
So why not labor minus the minute?
Here, Lee, you're trying to pigeonhole it into.
No, I'm just trying to be black and white, concrete, because otherwise we can't.
Lee, that has nothing to do with me.
Early, but
hey, Steve, let's see what Steve has to say.
Well, real quickly, just want to welcome everyone to Pod TV World Edition. Today I've got to run to another meeting, but I did want to just give a quick update on some things going on in the world. And Mark, if you could drive those conversations.
Yeah, I'll drive the conversation back when you come back, but definitely.
We'll be right back when Steve is talking.
But real quickly, Great Britain, Rishi Sunak is up to, it's going to have a tough week. Inflation is going to be really high in Britain. The illegal migration law is going to go into place. So, and they might be losing some elections, the conservatives. So, and meanwhile, there's been some movement in the war in Ukraine with more Russian attacks, wildfires really spreading, heat wave going on. And the big political news of the day is I'm going to go back on my friend, Joe Manchin, U.S. Senator, has been hosted a town hall meeting with No Labels with John Huntsman, the former Republican governor of Utah, who also served as ambassador to China under Obama and ambassador to Russia under Trump. And there's been some claims that this is going to be the unity ticket that No Labels is going to run for the White House. So I think that's interesting. Both parties claim, both Huntsman and Manchin, that both parties have moved too much to the fringe of their parties, and there needs to be a more moderate solution. I have not been convinced that a third party would be anything viable in our lifetime, because the system is just driven so much from the finance and big money coming in to back both candidates. But maybe it will happen one day if they can get on all the ballots. Maybe they'll just be a surprise. And anyway, that's all I've got. And I just wanted to chime in and give you some of that news today.
Appreciate it, Ed.
Was just singing the wheels then? Wasting time.
Manchin, Huntsman.
You said Manchin and who?
John Huntsman.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm still, just to put it out there, I guess I'm still not a fan of No Labels because they're very vague in what they're doing. They don't have, and so I can't support No Labels at all due to the fact that all they're saying is, hey, we're the party of unity. Okay, so what are your positions? And they aren't putting out any positions. Then I think it was last night. I think Huntsman was, no, it was Manchin that I think did an interview last night, and they tried to release their platform, but they said that their platform is very vague, and they said that this is just their views and how do they put it? These are just their views and not the end point. Or something. I forgot how they worded it, but they don't have their positions there. They're not telling you, for example, how Lee and I we're going back and forth on the abortion topic. They're not talking about that. They're not talking about other points. So they're just saying, hey, vague, we got these two people that are centrists, but they're not really centrists.
We got both Sasha. Speaking of folks that have got different views, and we're going to bring him up as well as Shaquille is here, and definitely going to bring Shaquille up as well. But one thing that I was curious about, because you mentioned, I'd love to hear maybe Shaquille or even you, Jito, have thoughts about it. But one of the things that Lee brought up, and I've heard this argument before, is that it is very simple to do abstinence. All you got to do is not have the act and everything, and therefore that is the simple way to have sex education and the lower amount of problems that exist, whether that is abortion, sexual diseases, or a number of other things. But sometimes that seems like a simplistic solution, and I'm not saying that it isn't a viable solution, but I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, Jito, because you can just tell people, you can tell the entire world not to have sex, but we as human beings are sexual beings, and we enjoy the act no matter what we say about it and everything. So I don't know that it is as easy as telling people to keep it in the pants.
That doesn't work. If our goal is to cut down on abortions, easy access to birth control, and those measures trim the abortion numbers more so than anything. Abstinence is not it's an idealistic thought that we can tell people, hey, just don't have sex. Well, we're sexual in nature. And that it's gonna happen. So our best thing.
Wait, is it a downside sentence?
Isn't what? You were breaking up.
Downside to it? Is there anything negative
about abstinence?
Yeah.
Actually, they did say that due to there were two people who wrote a book that were talking about sex and how it helps our mentality. So I mean, from other forms and things, yeah, it's just part of who we are. It's just one of those things. So if you take that
I don't know.
away,
I don't know if you have a teen daughter or a little daughter or an 18-year-old daughter. Just say, you know what, go for the better, go for it.
but here's the question. I mean, if we know that, so with the whole abstinence thing, and abstinence doesn't even work in Catholic churches, that leads to a lot of child molestation, which is sad.
We're all.
Don't be ridiculous, Toby. Don't be ridiculous. The conversation is about abortion. Don't bring child molestation into it because of bad instances in the Catholic Church. Stay on the topic. I'm sick and tired of hearing you attack Christians and attack religion. Okay, if you've got some left-wing view, that's fine. Leave the Christians alone and stop attacking the bloody church.
Okay, sorry you got a little sensitive over what I said, but child molestation.
I'm not sensitive. I'm not sensitive at all. If you want to try and make the claim that abortion has something to do with the worst bits of child abuse that has been experienced by the Catholic Church over the last few decades, there is no connection between the two. What you've done is you have just tried to attack the church to try to make a point about a completely separate issue. Stick to abortion. Stop attacking people's religious beliefs.
Nope, not attacking people's religious beliefs. You got a little sensitive on there. The thing is, you asked about abstinence. Abstinence in the church does not even work.
No, I didn't ask about anything. The only reason why I came in was when you started attacking the church. That's when I came in.
We asked about abstinence.
Yeah, Lee brought up, hold on, just to give clarity, Lee brought up the notion of abstinence as being the be all end all solution to end what is going on with the whole abortion debate and sexual activity.
Listen. We're not gonna sit here and entertain this ridiculous, because you wouldn't do it if somebody was attacking your side, Jatovi, you wouldn't put up with it. Okay, what you've just tried to do is say, okay, abstinence doesn't work. That's fair enough. I don't agree with you, but that's fair enough. Okay, abstinence doesn't work. So that is not a solution that the conservatives are pushing. That's not a solution to the abortion issue. Fair enough. You want to make that point, but then you couldn't help yourself. You then had to say it doesn't work even in the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church has got this history of child molestation. The two things are not the same, Jatovi. Why you want to do that is totally beyond me, but it's ridiculous. It's offensive to people who have religious beliefs. And just because you don't have those religious beliefs, have some respect for those people that do. And by the way, I'm not Mr. Sensitive because I'm not Catholic, by the way. It's just completely wrong for you to attack people's religious beliefs that way.
So again, I'm not attacking religious beliefs. I didn't say a religious belief believes in doing this. All I stated was a fact that abstinence does not work. Abstinence does not even work in the church where they're preaching this. Child molestation happens there. That's what ends up happening. So when they're in a group, we are a sexual being. It's not attacking the church. So if you took it that way, I apologize. But again, abstinence does not.
Abstinence doesn't work. I'll just make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm going to repeat back to you just to make sure that I'm on the same page as you are. Abstinence does not work because an example of abstinence not working is child molestation in the Catholic Church. That's what you're saying? Your proof that abstinence doesn't work, the proof that you're trying to use to prove your point is that abstinence doesn't work because there's been child molestation in the Catholic Church. Is that correct?
That's one example.
All right, I'll leave you to it, guys. See you later.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to frame this. So the opposite of abstinence is promiscuity. So promiscuity, you're saying, is good.
No. So what I'm saying is that we have to accept the fact that sex is going to happen. We have to figure out ways to make it to make it so that
Traditionally, that's called marriage.
but that's not that anymore.
Why not?
Traditionally, because sex happens before marriage, sex happens even after divorce.
So how about sex within marriage with other than your partner? Is it
Even that happens.
Huh?
Even that happens. I'm
So
just
that's
saying it happens. Do I say I agree with somebody doing committing
So
adultery?
your argument that it happens means it's okay, just accept it?
My argument is that we know for a fact we are a sexual being. It is part of who we are. Us trying to deny that and fight
I'm not
against
denying that. Obviously we are. We're made
Yeah.
to
So my
create
point
what have
is-
you. But is it better or not better for a man and a woman to wait till they're in a committed relationship than through their teenage years and 20 years or whatever? Just go for it. Why not?
But the thing is, why are we trying to mandate how someone and when someone can?
Well, there's a
Why
few
is that our
reasons,
focus?
Toby. One is to cut down on diseases, which they're very serious, sexually transmitted diseases, and also unwanted pregnancies, teenage pregnancies, unwed mother pregnancies.
So again, instead of trying to dictate what we cannot control,
Excuse me.
why not?
We can control who we sleep with.
No, we cannot dictate that of somebody. You cannot tell your neighbor who they can sleep with.
100%. I'm on board with that.
So why are we trying to
We can
dictate?
tell our children, though, that you know
Again.
what? If you're going to make these choices,
Lee,
they're either good choices or bad choices. As
Lee,
parents and mentors, are we not supposed to put values and educate our kids with
Lee,
consequences of life, such as drunk driving, what
do
have you?
children listen to parents? Everything. Do children do everything their parents say?
No.
So
Do
again,
adults do everything that the police say? No. We're imperfect creatures. Therefore, what?
so you're arguing for something that you know cannot happen.
Should we not have ideals in life, whether it's the 10 Commandments
We
or
can
you
have
should not
ideals.
steal
We
and
can have
murder?
all this. We can preach about all that.
What's
We
wrong
can
with
say
murder
all
then?
this. What I'm
Why-
stating to you is that we know for a fact that sex happens. It happens.
And therefore,
Therefore, our best thing is to provide contraception, to provide birth control. These things do what? Exactly what you're talking about. That, oh, well, we should be able to dictate you're wanting to cut down on these diseases. Well, contraception does that. You're wanting to cut down on unwanted pregnancies. Well, contraception does that. So if we are looking at it logically and wanting to make a difference, knowing that it happens, what should we do? Fight against a wave that we cannot move, or help with it? Give people surfboards.
Je
I
tell
think
you,
it's
there
gonna
is
keep it
very
short.
easy answer to
Let's
all
hear
the
from Sasha.
problems. The answer is proliferation of homosexual relationships. There are
I'm not sure how you got that jump, Sasha.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But think about it. What a beautiful mechanism to stop all unwanted pregnancy, have a good time, and no problems at all. The thing is, you have to learn how to participate in homosexual activities. I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's possible, right?
No.
No.
That was like you went way out the left field.
No, I'm trying to find solution to all unwanted pregnancies, abortion issues, and so on. So if there will be a proliferation of homosexual sexual activities, there will be no problems with the unwanted pregnancy, abortions, and many other issues.
Toby, should we as parents or teachers or just promote promiscuity within our society? Is that a good thing? The more, the better?
So what is being promoted? It's hard to say. I mean, it's what people, but in terms of, like, for example, in school, sexual education isn't about, hey, we're going to all just do this. That's not what sexual education is. Sexual education is about exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, but for those who choose to be virgins, should we make them to be the oddball, that they're weird, go in the closet?
Not at all.
should we praise that behavior then? It's one or the other.
Here's a question. Why should we be worried about what somebody's doing in their bedroom? Why are we so focused on, hey, if they do, if they don't?
Okay,
No,
I'm
we
going
just
to be blunt with you. I may be weird, but you know what? When my wife, I would rather marry a woman who hasn't slept with someone who slept with 10,000 people. Just that's just me. You may be different. I'd rather not walk around the town looking at every guy. Did you sleep with my wife?
Listen, what about if we reduce number to 5,000 people? Would that make you feel better?
But here's the question: is you? And this is where this is why we should have a woman on the show speaking about these issues as well.
But this is men also. I don't want dating my wife. Let's compare our notches.
No, but here we are living in a patriarchal society, regardless, and everything is judgmental against the woman. If the woman,
the man also, in fairness, I think a lot of women do want to marry men who did not sleep around the town.
Well, I don't think.
Are there any available?
As much as a woman, I don't know, and this would be more a question for a woman, because I think that they can take this better, and they can educate us on their views on that, because the whole book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, we think about sex a lot, and I think women do as well. But I think women handle it differently than men, or speak about it. Are you saying
there's a man's brain and a woman's brain? That's a separate subject, but I'm just quite curious.
There's a difference
between a man's brain and a woman's brain.
I think the communication style is different.
Yeah,
I don't know in terms of, hey, one is this way and the other is this way. I think communication style is different. Hence the reason why we talk about, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But I think one of the big things is that I don't know if that's a woman's focus, is how many other women did this dude sleep with. It could be our focus. For some guys it is, but for others it's not. So it could be the same.
But you tell me, isn't that one of the main conversations? Is one that is still in, and I think I'm the only one in this crew that is still in the single lane. How many times are you going to sit there? Because I don't sit there when I am going on dates trying to figure out their dating history. And as you get older, the dating history is going to be wide and vast. Now, if they want to share with me their exes and their past, that is a decision that they make and that they opt to do and whatever. But I am not pushing to find out, to Lee's point, who they've been with and everything. I mean, some of the people, it is obvious that they have slept with somebody, but I'm not going to try to figure out. I might try to figure out why it went wrong, but I'm also not going to try to figure out the whole nature of the relationship, because I have definitely dated women with kids and women that have been in previous relationships, but I'm not going to sit there trying to overanalyze what went wrong or what went right in those relationships. We're going to find our common ground, and it'll either work or won't work.
And I think that's where we need to be. We all should be, is that their sexual history isn't something that should be tattooed on them, and we judge that. It just shouldn't be it. If you have a personal preference and that's something that you get into in the relationship and find out later, but yet you love this woman, is that going to change anything?
Right.
It shouldn't.
Exactly.
It should just be part of their history, part of what their experiences and so on and so forth that they bring to the table that you may not.
Right.
And then looking at at the history of that you live, they may see things in our life and you don't want to be judged based on those things. You just want to be accepted. And that's where that whole acceptance comes in.
Now, on the flip side of that, and I'm just going to be a little bit candid, there are times that it can be very harder to deal with and everything, because I have definitely talked to and have still been friends with, and who knows what the relationships will go or not go with women that have a longer history. And you have to add that into the picture, because I have definitely dated women that don't just have kids, but they also have grandkids. So then you've got to figure out as to how much you are willing to be not just an instant family, but an instant grand family. But that is a decision that I have to make, but they have to make as well. But like I said, that's a conversation that takes place, and we either decide to continue moving forward or not move forward. But as you get older, those conversations become a greater probability of happening. But that's just my thoughts on the matter and everything. Hey, really quickly, and I know we're going to go in about 5 minutes to yours. So, Sasha, I was going to get to it earlier, but we got into this very deep discussion and all along those lines. But this is a question for everybody, just so we can take 5 minutes and we can get off of the topic just to get to another one. But are any of you going to try to win the crazy amount of money? Because I just saw this recently that
$1
it is
billion
a crazy amount of money that is in the lottery. So I just wondered if any of you are going for this $1 billion settlement or whatever. I mean, it's not really a settlement, but apparently it is now up to a whopping, the Powerball is $1 billion. So, and I guess that is a 900 million jackpot, because definitely there was no winner. So no Powerball winner means that we are now going to be at $8 billion. So you can join the ranks of Elon Musk and others. I mean, I know that there are a lot of that money that disappears, but Lee Newton Rhodes, Sasha Starr, well, I don't know if Canada's in the lottery, but definitely Lee Newton Rhodes and Jacoby, are you going to try to get that $1 billion?
When he gets up to that number, I get a ticket. For the $2, I go, entertainment.
What about you,
I
Jacoby?
agree. I agree. Lee and I are in the same boat on that one.
Get
You're
up to
gonna buy
that
a
amount,
coffee
you
at
might want to
Starbucks.
take a chance.
Right
Huh?
there.
I don't think it's available in Canada, so I wouldn't bother with that.
You're not going to cross the border, Sasha?
You see, it's not a problem with $2. It's a problem is that you have to make some efforts to acquire ticket. Number one. Number two, you have to make some efforts to check whether you're the winner or not. And this will take certain time, and I don't know if I would bother with that.
Yep, it'd be interesting to see. Like I said, folks are going in that space and everything along those lines. Hey,
Sasha, don't worry. Lee and I'll get you a ticket.
And we'll tell you afterwards whether you want it or not.
When you see us on a yacht, we'll let you know.
Are you going to bring him the yacht ticket? Are you going to bring him the money with the yacht?
Of course. Yeah. I'm gonna pick.
Actually, I remember an interesting story from when I was a teenager, and a friend of mine was at my place, and then we went out to visit another friend, and on the way we were going by the bank, one of the branches of the bank, and that's where you could buy and check lottery tickets. And I had one lottery ticket which I purchased for $1 ruble, for example. Now, when we were talking about, and I told him that I'm going to check this ticket, and I have very, very strong feeling that this ticket will be a winner. And he also he became very serious, and he said, "Okay, would you like to sell me your ticket?" I asked him, "Are you crazy? This ticket is a winner. I really have a very strong feeling about it. Okay, we're already approaching this branch." And he's saying, "Okay, I'll pay you 20 rubles." I say, "You must be kidding." "Okay, but you can buy it for 50 rubles. Okay, here's 50 rubles. So he's buying this ticket, and we're walking there. Now I'm in trouble, because if it's a winner, what an idiot I am. It wasn't a winner. So somebody else was an idiot. But anyway, it's kind of interesting story.
So you made a profit. He lost the money because you said they filling and everything, but he's the one that actually lost in that whole scenario and everything. So we're going to get out of here. Jacoby, you would have loved it earlier. We were talking about the crazy criminals that exist, because I was telling him the story about the guy that got stuck in the convenience station in Durham that was trying to rob it, which I think you remember, and also the the kid that got caught at the bus terminal because he didn't have a plan.
So 2 quick notes on that. Lee, you got to watch it. It's the 2 greatest shows on TV.
Which one?
So there's Bait Car, which of course, I mean, this is all planned, but it is hilarious. The whole idea that they do is supposedly the cops leave a car out running in the open, door unlocking and everything else, and people run into the car and steal the car. There was this one where the guy stole the car. I mean, it's all this true TV stuff, which is of course scripted. But so the guy stole the car. The cops pull him over, shut his car down, pull him over, and said, "Hey, why'd you steal the car?" He said, "Hey, I was just taking it to the police station to return it."
You're laughing, but they do that in New York City in the subways. They have wallets down there, and if you don't stop and give it to the first policeman you pass, that's when they arrest you. They wait for you to go past a police officer.
Oh wow, yeah.
You can't use that excuse if you pass them up.
So watch Bait Car on TV, and the other one is I think it's World's Dumbest Criminals. There was the one where the guy threw the cinder block at the plexiglass, and it bounced back and knocked him
That
out.
one I saw. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, coming to do some insane things and everything. But we're going to get out here. We'll have more conversation
See you
tomorrow.
guys
Still
tomorrow.
working on getting some guests
Beautiful.
and everything, but I don't think we've got anybody scheduled for tomorrow either. But we're going to get out of here, and I know that Sasha's going to start his show about Russia, Ukraine, and China, and we'll see if Ivan comes in from Kyiv and all in that space. But right now, we're going to get on out of here.